again to be here at Greensville Correctional Center today, since this has been here since 1991. And this prison, as we all know and have been reminded, has housed Virginia's death chamber. I have just finished a tour, including the execution chamber. I don't know how else to describe it, but other than say that it is a powerful thing to stand in the room where people have been put to death. I know that experience will stay with me for the rest of my life. And it reinforced me that signing this new law is the right thing to do. It is the moral thing to do to end the death penalty in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is a major change because our Commonwealth has a long history with capital punishment. Over our 400-year history, Virginia has executed more than 1,300 people, more than any other state. For 200 years, those executions happened in downtown Richmond at the old Virginia State Penitentiary on Spring Street. Virginia's history, we have much to be proud of, but not the history of capital punishment. Like many people, when I was young, I believed in an eye for an eye. But as I matured, my mind changed. And when I ran for office, I committed to work on ending the death penalty in Virginia. And as I have learned more about how the death penalty is applied in this country, I can say that the death penalty is fundamentally flawed. Most importantly, we know that the system doesn't always get it right. Let's take the case of Earl Washington, Jr. In 1984, Mr. Washington was wrongly convicted of a crime that he didn't commit. His conviction came following a coerced confession and led the jury to sentence him to death. Just a year later, Mr. Washington sat on Virginia's death row with an execution date set. The issues with his case finally got in front of the right people. Just 9 days before his execution would have been carried out. This system was 9 days from executing an innocent man. The lesson here is not that the system worked. The lesson here is that the system did not work. The system allowed an innocent man to be convicted of murder. And while Mr. Washington is the only person we know of rescued from Virginia's death row, can we really, truly be sure that there aren't others? In fact, around the country, more than 170 people have been released from death row since 1973 due to evidence of their innocence. That is simply wrong. We can't give out the ultimate punishment without being 100% sure that we're right. And we can't sentence people to that ultimate punishment knowing that the system doesn't work the same for everyone. Ending the death penalty comes down to one fundamental question, one question. Is it fair? For the state to apply this ultimate final punishment, the answer needs to be yes. Fair means that it is applied equally to anyone, no matter who they are. And fair means that we get it right, that the person punished for the crime did the crime. But we all know that the death penalty cannot meet those criteria. So it is not fair. It is applied differently based on who you are, and the system has gotten it wrong. We know that this Commonwealth's use of capital punishment has been inequitable. In the 20th century, 296 of the 377 defendants that Virginia executed for murder were black. I'm going to repeat that. 296 of the 377 defendants that Virginia executed for murder were black. Of the 113 individuals who have been executed in Virginia since 1976, 52 were black. And studies have shown that a defendant is 3 times more likely to be sentenced to death if the victim of a crime is white than if the victim is black. And that is simply wrong. And that is why it is time in this Commonwealth of Virginia to end the death penalty. Virginia has a long and complicated history, like other southern states. The racism and discrimination of our past still echoes in our systems today. And as we continue to step beyond the burden of that past, it is vital that we also change the systems in which inequality continue to fester. We've started by reforming other criminal sentencing laws and other work to pry unjust policies out of the fabric of our criminal justice system. Ending the death penalty is the next vital step in that process. There is no place today for the death penalty in this Commonwealth, in the South, or in this nation.